Among corporations that experienced a rise in deepfake incidents, 75% of deepfakes impersonated a CEO or another C-suite executive. Generative AI enables the criminal exploitation of victims' emotional vulnerabilities through tactics such as sextortion, pig butchering scams, phishing, and elder fraud. The voice was indiscernible to the mother who wired $1,000 to scammers in Mexico. AI is also fueling a rise in sextortion and synthetic CSAM. New AI tools can generate highly realistic but entirely fabricated explicit images, often used to extort minors or damage reputations. Generative AI provides a degree of separation, allowing actual terrorists to maintain anonymity in their public-facing recruiting practices. Generative AI also allows terrorists to produce propaganda, fake news stories, and emotionally resonant messages tailored to specific psychological profiles.
If adversaries are deploying large-scale AI-enabled crime with impunity, and if the public no longer feels that government can protect them, we risk a breakdown of that trust. The consequences are not just individual harms, they are systemic, national security level threats to our institutions and civic cohesion.
This is an important hearing, which focuses on artificial intelligence and how it is being exploited by criminals. The conceptual roots of AI can be traced to British mathematician Alan Turing, who in the 1930s theorized about machines being capable of performing any computable task. Today, AI is best understood as a branch of computer science that leverages large-scale data processing, algorithmic modeling, and modern hardware to enable machines to perform tasks typically requiring human cognition. Unfortunately, like most technical innovation, the criminal element has begun to use AI to enhance their illicit activities. AI-enabled threats continue to evolve as bad actors use AI technology in a wide spectrum of criminal enterprises. From deepfake scams and synthetic identity fraud to financial crimes and child sexual abuse material, CSAM, the landscape continues to evolve at a rapid pace as AI provides users with enhanced capabilities. AI-based or AI-driven threats and schemes can cost businesses millions of dollars a year, including both prevention and falling prey to them. In one case, fraudsters used AI to clone a CEO's voice and authorize a wire transfer. Among corporations that experienced a rise in deepfake incidents, 75% of deepfakes impersonated a CEO or another C-suite executive. Generative AI enables the criminal exploitation of victims' emotional vulnerabilities through tactics such as sextortion, pig butchering scams, phishing, and elder fraud. Senior citizens are increasingly targeted through voice phishing scams where an AI-generated replica of a grandchild or military officer claims to need urgent funds. In one case, a Colorado mother received a call from what sounded like her daughter pleading for help. The voice was AI-generated, cloned from a short online clip, and used to demand ransom. The voice was indiscernible to the mother who wired $1,000 to scammers in Mexico. AI is also fueling a rise in sextortion and synthetic CSAM. New AI tools can generate highly realistic but entirely fabricated explicit images, often used to extort minors or damage reputations. Some sextortion scams exploit the trust associated with platforms like Apple's iMessage by impersonating classmates or romantic interests via recognizable blue bubble interfaces. Criminals now deploy apps like MUA to fabricate child abuse images at scale. Stanford University researchers have uncovered evidence that generative models were trained on real exploitative content. Terrorist groups now utilize AI to target, recruit, and indoctrinate vulnerable individuals. Generative AI provides a degree of separation, allowing actual terrorists to maintain anonymity in their public-facing recruiting practices. Generative AI also allows terrorists to produce propaganda, fake news stories, and emotionally resonant messages tailored to specific psychological profiles. Reports of generative artificial intelligence enabled scams between May of 2024 and May of 2025 rose by 456%. The use of exploitative generative AI allows criminals to produce human-like text, code, images, and videos, allowing criminals to use the technology for further criminal activities such as creating more realistic phishing lures or generating deepfakes for extortion. On average, phishing attacks cost $4.9 million per breach. On the other hand, AI is increasingly integrated into police investigations, offering new tools and capabilities for law enforcement agencies amid the backdrop of rapidly expanding digital data sources and increasing demands on law enforcement agencies.
When used by law enforcement, this technology has the potential to empower our investigators while also carrying the risk of serious errors with life-changing consequences. That is why it is critical that we proceed thoughtfully and put appropriate guardrails in place so that everyone in our criminal justice system that is using AI-enabled tools, they're using them responsibly, not to the detriment of law-abiding members of our communities. We've already seen what can go wrong when those safeguards are missing. A woman and her family experienced the dangers of using AI-enabled facial recognition technology. Detroit police used a facial recognition tool in an attempt to identify a carjacking suspect using an image from a surveillance camera. The tool matched the surveillance image with a picture of Portia Woodruff, a nursing school student. One morning, as Miss Woodruff was getting her 2 children ready for school, police knocked on her door, and they told her that she was under arrest for carjacking. She knew right away there must be some kind of mistake, and she gestured at her body as she spoke to law enforcement to point out the obvious, she hoped, to law enforcement, that she was 8 months pregnant. Though the police had not been looking for a visibly pregnant woman, they still handcuffed Ms. Woodruff, took her away from her crying children, held her for 11 hours, searched her phone, and they charged her. After her release, she went straight to the hospital and was treated for dehydration. The charges were dismissed a month later. This case is especially troubling because facial recognition tools have been shown to perform worse on Black individuals, increasing the risk of misidentification and contributing to over-criminalization. AI is only as good as the data it is trained on. And when that data is biased, it exacerbates racial disparities, long embedded in our criminal justice system. An inaccurate tool is dangerous for every single one of us. Not one of us is immune to these mistakes. Thankfully, and in due part to cases like this one, the City of Detroit has adopted new rules to direct the use of facial recognition technology within its police department. And they're simply not alone. Many cities and states have put sensible guardrails in place to limit potentially harmful uses of AI. That's why it was alarming when some of my Republican colleagues recently attempted to pass a moratorium on state and local AI regulations in the Big Ugly Bill, a move that generated bipartisan opposition so much that 40 states' attorneys general and 17 Republican governors, including the governor of my state, Georgia, wrote letters to the Senate in opposition to the proposed moratorium. The governors warned that, and I'm quoting them, people will be at risk until basic rules ensuring safety and fairness can go into effect, end quote. As you'll see behind me, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the Republican governor of Arkansas and former press secretary to President Trump, took to Twitter to quote, "I stand with a majority of GOP governors against stripping states of the right to protect our people from the worst abuses of AI. The U.S. must win the fight against China on AI and everything else. But we won't if we sacrifice the health, safety, and prosperity of our people," end quote. While this most recent proposal was ultimately stripped from the bill by a 99-1 vote of the Senate, the Republican chair of the House Energy and Commerce Committee has already vowed to continue to pursue a moratorium, even while acknowledging that federal regulations on AI are still light years away. I stand with those seeking to protect the health and the safety and civil rights of our communities from the abuses of AI, and I hope that we can come together and follow the lead of the states to explore what those guardrails should look like and put them in place. I look forward to learning more from our experts here today. Hearing from you is going to be extremely critical for us on this very important issue. But before I yield, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record two letters. The first, a letter from 17 Republican governors in opposition to a moratorium on state and local regulation on AI, and the second, a letter from 40 state attorneys general, both Republican and Democrats, in opposition to a moratorium on state and local regulation of AI.
Without objection.
I yield.
The gentlelady yields. Without objection, all of the opening statements will be included in the record. We'll now introduce today's witnesses, and we're very grateful for our witnesses. Dr. Andrew Bown, okay. Dr. Bown is a professorial lecturer in law at the George Washington University Law School, where he teaches courses on artificial intelligence law and policy. He has served in the United States Air Force Judge Advocate General Corps since 2010 and previously served as the Chief Legal Counsel of the Department of the Air Force Artificial Intelligence Accelerator at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Thank you, Doctor, for being with us today. Ms. Perenel, for you, we give you your 5 minutes now.
Chairman Biggs, Ranking Member McBath, and members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today and for creating this forum to discuss how AI is changing the landscape of cybercrime. I'm honored to share my perspective on how this technology is making these threats more accessible, more personalized, and more difficult to detect. My name is Zara Paramal. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Overwatch Data, a cyber threat intelligence company that uses AI to identify and analyze emerging threats in the cybercrime and fraud ecosystems. Through our work, we see every day how AI is used to both prevent and also to facilitate criminal activity. I'd like to focus my remarks today on how we see AI changing the threat landscape and what we can do about it through both education and innovation. AI is a powerful general-purpose tool with a broad range of applications for criminal activity and for a broad range of threat actors. It can be used to learn how to commit crimes, to write code, craft realistic scam text messages, generate audio or voice clones, and of course, create deepfake images or videos. Across this wide range of malicious use, three trends stand out. First, AI is reducing the barriers to entry for cybercrime. Users can ask a chatbot, including ones explicitly designed for fraud, how to commit crimes. They can learn the technical skills they need to carry them out, and they can also use that to make their attacks more convincing and more effective. Second, it's challenging businesses. By subverting identity verification systems, AI can be used to generate a photo for a fake persona or profile. It can then be used to generate high-quality synthetic fake IDs, and then if they're asked to verify their identity, they can join a video call, swap their face with their fake photo, and verify their access to that business. This is a problem not just for the specific business that's being targeted, but it's a problem because it gives them a foothold from which they can hide their identity for the future next online crime that they'll carry out. The third thing we see is crimes are becoming far more personalized. For example, voice clones are used to target the elderly by calling a grandparent in what sounds like their grandchild's voice and claiming to be in the hospital and in need of money. Employment scams prey on young adults who are looking for their first job. And I think one of the most disturbing cases is the nudifying apps, which often target children. They turn ordinary photos into fake sexually explicit images, which are then used to bully, harass, and extort victims, in some cases driving them to suicide. This abuse is carried out to children, both by their classmates and by remote criminals. There's a lot of harm, there's a lot that's changing, but there's also a lot we can do. First, education and awareness can prevent and deter many of these harms. These crimes work because people don't expect them. If we invest in education across schools, workplaces, and communities, we can make these crimes less effective and more costly to carry out. Second, we have an opportunity to combat this with innovation. The same technology that is enabling these crimes can also be used to detect scams, find malware, and disrupt cybercrime. By supporting innovation and strengthening public-private partnerships, we can shift the technical advantage to the defenders. While AI enables crime to be more accessible, more personalized, and harder to detect, I remain optimistic. With the right investment in education and innovation, we can engage our whole society in building a future where AI expands access to opportunity, strengthens safety, and helps people spend more time on what matters. On a personal note, it's very exciting to me to see that Congress is addressing this issue and putting a spotlight on it. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vinsky, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Chairman Biggs, Ranking Member McBath, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union. I will address two issues this morning. First, it is crucial that our response to criminal uses of artificial intelligence adhere to the Constitution, civil rights, and civil liberties. Second, efforts by Congress and the administration must not inadvertently open the door for AI abuses, such as through a moratorium on state regulation of AI or continuing consolidation of federal data. With appropriate measures, Congress can ensure that AI is safe, effective, and consistent with our rights and liberties. First, Congress's measures to address criminal AI must comport with the Constitution, civil liberties, civil rights, and privacy. For example, traditional First Amendment activities do not lose their protection simply because artificial intelligence was used. Editorial content moderation using AI is not categorically exempted from the First Amendment's protections, and neither is commentary on politicians or candidates for office. Speech about politicians and candidates in particular lies at the heart of the First Amendment and enjoys special protection. Consequently, courts have readily and correctly overturned laws prescribing false speech about politicians and candidates. The emergence and use of AI does not change those core foundational constitutional precepts. Likewise, privacy concerns may arise from obligations imposed on platforms that host and distribute AI systems. Requirements or incentives to search users' communications, to restrict their publication of models, code, and data, to monitor or report their online activity, or to prohibit or undermine encryption, all increase governmental surveillance and in some circumstances may violate the Fourth Amendment. As the committee considers legislation addressing criminal uses of AI, we urge you to ensure that speech, privacy, and other important civil liberties are protected. Second, the recently rejected AI moratorium would have dramatically increased the risk of AI harms, including criminal and fraudulent activity. Similarly, the consolidation of federal data is creating an enormous risk of AI harms. The moratorium that was included in versions of the reconciliation package was sweeping, preempting state laws and local regulations that regulate AI for 10 years. Although the moratorium included limited exemptions for some generally applicable laws, serious questions about the scope and workability of those exemptions remained. For example, dozens of states have passed laws regulating deep-fake non-consensual intimate imagery, often by amending existing statutes to clarify their application to generative AI. Similarly, Tennessee's Elvis Act extends legal protections to a person's voice, including a simulation of the voice. It is not clear if such laws, with their express application or clear intent to apply to AI, qualify as generally applicable. Moreover, in many instances, addressing AI's harms requires legislating specifically on AI. Establishment of an AI moratorium will jeopardize these efforts, giving bad actors a blank check. As Ranking Member McBath recognized, 17 Republican governors and members of both parties in both chambers of Congress opposed the moratorium before Congress stripped it from the reconciliation package in a 99-1 vote in the Senate. Of more immediate concern, consolidation of federal data creates a platform for supercharged AI-driven surveillance. And while data consolidation and sharing could potentially improve governmental operations in limited circumstances, efficiency should not be elevated over robust protection of our privacy. Otherwise, consolidation could risk the creation of vast and unaccountable surveillance platform capable of tracking citizens' activities, movements, and associations. Such a platform would be readily analyzable by large language models, machine learning, and other AI systems, such as black box policing algorithms used by federal law enforcement to ingest governmental data and predict who is likely to commit crimes. Data consolidation could lead to biometric information gathered by federal law enforcement or during air travel being readily accessible by other agencies. Records related to firearms might be accessible across the federal government, and IRS data reflecting contributions to organizations like the ACLU, the NAACP, the NRA, or the Heritage Foundation could be accessible to federal law enforcement without meaningful process. It is essential for Congress to block the creation of centralized government dossiers on each of us. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before the subcommittee, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vinsky. Now, Mr. Redboard, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Chairman Biggs, Ranking Member McBath, members of the subcommittee. My name is Ari Redboard, and it's an honor to appear before you today on behalf of TRM Labs, where we work every day with law enforcement, financial institutions, and national security agencies to detect, investigate, and prevent illicit activity in the digital asset ecosystem. Before joining TRM, I spent about 11 years as a federal prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice, and later as an official in the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. In those roles, and now at TRM, I've seen one truth borne out time and time again. Criminals are often the earliest adopters of transformative technology. They were among the first to weaponize automobiles to move illicit goods across state lines, adopt pagers and cell phones to coordinate narcotics networks, utilize encrypted messaging apps to evade surveillance, and exploit cryptocurrencies to steal and transfer illicit proceeds at the speed of the internet. And now they are embracing artificial intelligence. We are rapidly approaching a world in which the bottleneck for crime is no longer human coordination, but computational power. When the marginal cost of launching a scam, phishing campaign, or extortion attempt approaches zero, the volume of attacks and their complexity will increase exponentially. We're not just seeing more of the same. We're seeing new types of threats that weren't possible before AI, novel fraud typologies, hyper-personalized scams, deep-fake extortion, autonomous laundering. The entire criminal ecosystem is shifting. That is why today's hearing matters. We must recognize that in the same way criminals are leveraging AI to disrupt and deceive, law enforcement and national security agencies must be empowered to use AI to defend and respond. This is not optional. It is foundational to preserving public trust and the social contract itself. If adversaries are deploying large-scale AI-enabled crime with impunity, and if the public no longer feels that government can protect them, we risk a breakdown of that trust. The consequences are not just individual harms, they are systemic, national security level threats to our institutions and civic cohesion. At TRM, we see this shift every day. Through Chain Abuse, our public scam reporting platform, we've tracked a 456% rise in AI-enabled scams, which often use deepfake technology, just in the last year. Ransomware actors are using AI to draft realistic phishing emails, identify vulnerable targets, and deploy malware that adapts to evade detection. On the laundering side, we're seeing bad actors use AI to automate and accelerate illicit money flows. We're also seeing fully autonomous fraud agents scraping personal data, launching scam campaigns, and even coordinating laundering operations. And most disturbing, we're seeing AI used to generate synthetic child sexual abuse material, fake but deeply harmful content traded online and weaponized in sextortion schemes. The solution to the criminal abuse of AI is not to ban or stifle the technology. It is to use it, and use it wisely. We must stay a step ahead of illicit actors by leveraging the same innovations they use for bad, for good. At TRM, we integrate AI at every layer of our platform to combat crime, using machine learning models and behavioral analytics to flag complex obfuscation techniques, trace illicit cryptocurrency transactions in real time, and identify emerging criminal typologies. We are developing and deploying AI-powered defense agents at scale to map illicit networks, triage threats, and surface early warning signs. These operational tools are already being used in the field to help global law enforcement agencies move faster, trace complex laundering schemes, and target the highest risk activity, often stopping criminal networks in their tracks before they can cause further harm. The future of crime will be defined by AI, but so will the future of enforcement. With the right investment, collaboration, and technology, we can meet this moment. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks so much. I appreciate all of you and your testimony, and very, very interesting. I hope we can get to some deep substance on it today. I now recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Knott, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the witnesses, thank you for coming to testify today. This is sort of a novel topic, but as each of you have stated clearly, this is a very important topic, and development around the blockchain technology, AI technology, it's something that is sort of it's only going to become more prevalent and more dominant in just about every area of our life. And that's true here in America, that's true overseas. I think it's going to be one of those paramount moments that it's going to be sort of formative. Where were you before? Where were you after? And to that end, as a former prosecutor myself, when I was prosecuting, I came on at the very end of the AI-free crime. And I started to see how blockchain and cryptocurrencies and artificial intelligence was infiltrating every area of the criminal world. And to that end, Mr. Redward, as the use of AI and blockchain technology does become more common, and it does become more integrated in every avenue, there's obviously access from domestic actors that are criminal and international actors. There's really no border that's recognized. How does that impact the criminal infrastructure, as it were, when you look at domestic versus international crime in that relationship?
Thank you so much for the question. Yes, I feel like you would uniquely understand this as a former AUSA as well. Look, we both prosecuted cases in a world where there were, networks of shell companies and hawalas and high-value art and real estate used to launder funds. But today, as criminal actors are looking to blockchains and cryptocurrencies, we can trace every transaction on an open public ledger, right? There's no more bulk cash smuggling. There's TRM to track and trace the flow of funds. So I think what we see right now is this really interesting convergence between AI crime, as we've